If you're thinking about selling your house, you probably have questions. So here are the 5 most common questions that we get asked as real estate agents. Hey there, my name is Henry. I'm from Hot Homes, and we're based here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area and specifically service and specialize in Montgomery County, Maryland. So I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm just going to give you the 5 questions that we get asked. So number 1, aside from commissions, what other costs are there, or how much can we expect to spend in order to sell this house? Number 2, aside, what upgrades are actually worthwhile? What am I going to get a return on investment for? Number 3, do I need another agent if I'm actually going to buy a house? Number 4, every real estate agent's favorite question, how accurate is the Zillow Zestimate? Or which one is more accurate? Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com. And number 5, how long does the process take overall? So let's start with how much it's going to cost to actually sell your house. So the biggest expense that everybody is aware of is the real estate agent's commission. But aside from that, what other costs go into it? You want to decide for yourself if you need to budget some money for home repairs. So think about what's more important to you, getting the highest sales price or just the least amount of hassle where you don't have to get contractors come through. After all, if time is important to you and you just want to get things on the market as quick as possible, then you might not actually need to make a whole lot of repairs. When thinking about home repairs, you want to think about it in terms of on a scale. You have like just some cosmetic issues, so things just to make it look a little prettier, to complete renovations and overhauls. And those, of course, will vary in price depending on how much your home needs or wants. And that's why it's always good to get a consultation from somebody, so that way you're not sinking money into something that's not going to give you a return on investment. Now, on the point of return on investment, it's not just money all the time, because sometimes time and hassle really will factor into how much something is worth for you. So even if you do get a return on investment, meaning you spend a certain amount of money and you get that money back or more, it may not make sense for you to do that if it's going to cause you a ton of hassle, or it's going to delay your timeline and end up costing you more, a whole bunch of extra stress for you and your family. So you need to factor in all of those factors, and that's what we're happy to do to consult with you on. Another factor would be utilities. So even if you're going to be moving out of the house, you're likely going to need to keep the water, light, and electricity on just to make sure that when people are coming through your home, it's a pleasant experience for them, especially in the wintertime like it is now, versus freezing outside, or freezing once you walk into the house, which creates a pretty negative experience. So expect the extra cost of maintaining the utilities. But of course, since if you're not going to be living there, the utilities are not going to be quite as high. Now here in Montgomery County, one of the disclosure documents will be a utility history. So if you've lived in the home within the previous 12 months prior, then you'll likely need to fill out a form that shows the utility history over the course of the past 12 months. As you go through the process of selling your house, you also want to talk to your bank about what the mortgage payment will look like, just to make sure that you don't have any prepayment penalties, just in case your bank's going to charge you something for canceling your mortgage or to trying to pay off your mortgage, since after all, they make their money from the amount of interest that you pay on a property. Now, if you have a condo or HOA, then you're also going to want to budget to purchase the HOA or condo transfer docs. So there's resale documents and you generally have to pay for them. I recommend doing it sooner than later, and we're happy to help you locate how to get those if you need be. But aside from that, you'll also have closing costs to factor in. So you have transfer and recordation taxes, any credits that the buyer might request, property taxes themselves, insurance, basically everything that goes into it. You just gotta want to figure, because everything gets prorated at the closing table. Now, granted, generally, at least in this current market, buyers tend to pay for most of the closing costs. You might be expected to pay for some of the closing costs if the buyer needs help, or if things come up in a home inspection where you need to make repairs and they decide to ask for a credit rather than for you to actually repair something. Now, if you're expecting to make a significant amount of profit off of the home compared to when you purchased it, then you might have to pay capital gains tax. So you want to make sure that your home, you factor that into your overall costs. Now, if you've also used it as an investment property, then you might also have to pay off those capital gains taxes as well. Just kind of be prepared for that. And lastly, if you haven't paid your taxes for the year, then you also want to make sure that to factor that in, because title companies tend to escrow those costs into the closing. So if you haven't paid those taxes yet, then it'll likely come out from your profits in order to cover it. So those are the basic costs that you can expect when selling your home. Number 2, what upgrades are actually worthwhile? So probably the single best return on investment that you're going to receive is a fresh coat of paint. Fresh paint just makes a house look and feel new, and there's just something about it that, especially when you use a neutral color, so again, you can consult with us to find out what the current trends are. Neutral colors are great, and they're commonly used by new home developers because it doesn't have a whole lot of personality, and it allows a person to walk into a house and feel like, oh, I can really make this my own. On the flip side, if you have what might be considered a distracting color, then sometimes buyers get turned off of that because they're just thinking immediately, oh, I already have to do work into the house, even though painting might not actually be that much work for them. Now, of course, most people think in terms of renovations, about kitchen renovations and bathroom renovations as being some of the other things that they might have to do, but that's not always necessarily the case. So we can come by, take a look at your kitchen and kitchens and restrooms and see if it actually requires any sort of remodeling to get the actual return. Because remember, you're not necessarily looking to spend as much and get the highest sales price. You want to make sure that you have the most amount of money in your pocket at the end of the transaction. Now, there are also some little tricks of the trade that you can do to refresh certain rooms without putting a ton of money into them. Now, you can also do things like little Home Depot hardware store fixes, like changing light fixtures, using brighter lights more towards the daylight colors rather than more red color. You can also change up the plates, any sort of outlet jacks that look a little broken. Just fix up things around the house, just make it look nice and new. You can change the doorknobs on your house, just anything that might look a little bit dated. And another part that people don't think about too much is landscaping. When people walk towards your house, the exterior appearance of your house actually has a lot to do with their first impressions of a home. In fact, oftentimes they'll drive up to the home. If they see that it's ugly in their eyes, then they'll just turn around and go. Or if it seems like the lawn isn't cared for, the housing has a bunch of moss all over it, the gardens are just not cared for, then they might think that the interior of the house is not that well taken care of either, and just drive off without even calling or bothering to come in and take a look at the house. Now, if you're going to be selling and then purchasing, can you use the same agent or do you have to hire different agents? Well, that actually depends on your particular agent. We service both buyers and sellers because we like to create a seamless experience. Now, if you're moving out of state, then we can actually interview agents for you to find the best possible agent for your specific needs and area and coordinate and communicate with them so that you don't feel like you're juggling between two different areas. We want to create one seamless, stress-free experience. Number 4, what is more accurate? Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, and are they even accurate? Every real estate agent that you talk to is going to tell you the Zestimate / all the other online estimate things are not accurate whatsoever, and there is a lot of truth into that. And the reason is actually fairly simple. These online estimators are data aggregators. So what they do is they take historic real estate data and based on square footage and location and comparable homes that sold in that area, they just kind of do an average of the numbers and then just pop that up, and that's what goes into a Zestimate basically. They don't know any updates that you've put into the house, they don't know any unique interior features of the home, and they might not know any specifics of the neighborhood across the street that might just be a total dive where the home prices are significantly lower versus your area, which goes up for higher because of one reason or another. Another factor that goes into it would be schools. They don't really factor in all of those things. So there are a lot of things that don't get put into those online estimates. Now they're good so you have a general idea, but don't get married to the number that you see online. Now, in terms of the various different websites, they all use different metrics, so they're all going to be inaccurate to varying degrees. So there isn't one website that's going to be better than another. And if anything, if you're watching this video, you actually have the best resource, which is going to be a real estate agent, because they can get you the specific data that you need. So feel free to reach out. If I don't service your area and I can't pull up the comparables in your region, then I'm happy to refer you to somebody who'd be happy to run some comparables for free. And number 5, how long does the process take? So that is a very, very subjective question, and it can go from very quickly to very slowly. So let's define what that means, very quickly. Very quickly could mean that the house is ready to go. All you have to do is sign some paperwork, get the sign put into the lawn, and you're ready for offers immediately. So if that's the case, that overall period can take under 7 days. If you're really in a hurry, we can probably get it done within 3 days or less. Now, from the moment that your home hits the market to when you get a contract, that will depend on your specific market and your particular neighborhood and the type of demand there is for your particular home with that particular set of features. In our area and at the current market, homes are just flying off the shelves. You can't keep it on for even over the weekend. Oftentimes homes will sell and people are getting ridiculous offers where people are just making offers sight unseen. It's really, really crazy, and it's because of the way that this particular area is. But again, you want to measure your expectations and figure out on average how quickly homes sell. And it's a relatively easy thing to do. Feel free to reach out and we can give you some of those numbers. Now, from contract to close, so from the moment that you sign a contract saying that you're willing to take a buyer's offer, and when you actually end up signing to hand over the keys to the buyer, also really depends, but it depends mostly on the buyer themselves. So in their contract, they'll write down how long that they're expecting to close. That'll be determined by any number of factors, from whether or not they're financing or purchasing in cash, how quickly their lender can close, and what kind of availability they have, in addition to your own needs, if you need extra time or if you want it to get done sooner than later. Now, there are several factors that can delay a transaction, so you want to make sure that you go over the contract thoroughly with your real estate agent to make sure that there aren't any surprises, or that you at least expect the areas that surprises could occur. So in short, the shortest amount of time that it can take is relatively quick. So if you're ready to sign the paperwork and get everything put into the MLS immediately, then in under 3 days, you can have the home ready and online. From there, it might be a matter of hours or a matter of days, weeks, or months for how long it takes to sell your house. But since we're looking at the shortest amount of time, let's say it just takes 1 day to sell your house. And then let's also assume that you're just getting a cash offer where they are just putting it down, they're not doing a home inspection, they're not doing an appraisal, they're just putting cash down and waiting for all the paperwork to get done. So that will also depend on how quickly the title company can get it done, but you can average about 1 to 2 weeks to get that done. So you can sell a home in basically under 3 weeks if you're really pushing the timeline. Generally, that's not going to happen. So you'll want to kind of budget anywhere from 30 to 60 days in a hot market in order to sell your home from the moment that you talk to your realtor, assuming that it's ready to go, and then from doing all the marketing updates, all that kind of stuff, and then getting under a contract, and then signing to hand the keys to the brand new owners. So those were the 5 most common questions that we get asked. But now I want to turn it over to you. What questions do you have for us in terms of the selling process? Did you find these questions useful, or are these things that you already know? We'd love to hear your responses, so feel free to reach back out to us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.